this 3D text animation looks complex, but it's actually super easy to create. And guys, once you learn it, it can take your video editing to the next level. Alright, so let's jump into After Effects and get started. So let's start with creating a new composition. The width is 1920, height is 1080 and duration is 10 seconds, so I'll just click on OK. Now guys, let's add a background so we can get the perspective of this 3D environment. I will right click and then I'll click on new and then I'll click on this solid and let's make it into some bright color. Now select this layer and press S for scale and scale this down a little like this. And now let's add another background as well. And now let's make it dark gray so we can understand what's going on in the background. Alright, so let's drag this base background in the bottom and this smaller background on the top, and now let's add some text. And now let's move this text layer on the top like this and make it in the center like this, or you can use this align tool. Now guys, the anchor point of this should be in the center, so I'll select this text layer, I'll hold on this control key and then I'll double click on this to make this anchor point in the center. Alright, so this is our text and this is the background of the text. Let's make this background a little rough by selecting this layer and then going to effects and presets. Now here search for roughen edges and drag and drop this onto this blue layer, blue solid, and here you can play with its properties like this. Alright, so now it's time to make this scene into 3D, but before doing that we need to make sure these both are in 3D. So I will select these both and make these 3D. Alright, so now let's add camera by right clicking here and then going to new and then click on this camera. I'm using this 35mm preset, so I'll simply just click on OK like this. And now if you expand this camera options and then go to this transform, and now if you change the position of this camera, you can see this is moving in this 3D space. So now to animate this into 3D, we need to play with these two properties of this camera, the point of interest and position. I'll put a keyframe at the starting point and then I'll move a few frames away like this. And now guys, let's play with the Z position of this camera. So I'll make it a little far like this. And for example, I want my next text to be at this point. So I will move it a little by using this point of interest to something like this. And now I will place my next text here, and instead of adding a new text, I'll simply just make a duplicate by pressing Ctrl D. And now by selecting this second layer, press P for the position, and then you can play with the position of this second word to something like this, and you can also rotate it like this. Let's make this text a little bigger to something like this and move it a little away as well like this. Alright, so this is our second text, and let's move this camera a little far again like this. And now I want my text to appear at this point, so I'll play with this point of interest again to something like this. And I will again make a duplicate of this last text layer by pressing Ctrl D. And I will press P again and I'll change its position to something like this again. Let's make it a little smaller so we can fit this inside the camera angle. And for example, if your text is big and it's not fitting, you can also go to this last keyframe and you can change the position of this Z again. And now by playing with this Z position, you can move the camera far away. Now guys, let's add another text. So I'll move a few frames away and then I will move this camera a little far again and I will point it towards the upside, center and upside. And now I want my text to appear on this top, so I will play with the point of interest to something like this. And let's move it to look upside like this. And now let's add the next text here. So I'll select this text and I'll press Ctrl D. And now let's change its position to something like this and rotate it like this. And let's move it to the center. And we also need to change the Z position so it is in the front like this. And guys, if you want to check the placing of these all text, you can simply just go to this second view, two views. Now in this second view, if you zoom out, you will see this is your first text and this blue layer, this is second, this is third and this is fourth. So you can change the positions at this point as well. So I can simply just select this and I can make it like this. Alright, so by using this top view, you can position your text perfectly. And let's go to this single view again. Alright, so now let's change this text to animation. And let's rotate it a little to something like this and move this into the Z space, and let's place it at this point. I will select this camera layer and I'll go to this keyframe and let's position it a little more. So I will play with the point of interest to something like this. Alright, so let's add another text. So I'll move a few frames away. I will select this and I will change the position of this camera to a little far again. And now let's add the text to this bottom. So I will make a duplicate of this animation again by pressing Ctrl D. And now let's move it to the bottom like this. Let's move this camera a little closer to this word animation. So I will play with this Z space in the position to something like this. Alright, so let's add the final text and I will move a few frames away and I'll change the camera position to something like this. And now let's make a duplicate of this last text layer and I'll move it a little down. So guys, this is how your animation is going to look, but we still need to make a few more tweaks. So I will select all these keyframes and I'll press F9 for easy ease. And now if you move to this graph editor, it should look like this. If it's not like this, you have to select this edit speed graph. I will select all these bottom points like this and I will make it something like this, and at this point I will make it like this. So these are all a little pointed. Now this is gonna make this animation a little more detailed. So let's close this chart and let's play this animation again. Awesome. Now the last thing to make this animation a little more realistic is to add depth of field. So in order to do that, I'll go to this camera and I'll go to this camera options. Now in this camera options, make sure this depth of field is turned on and then you can play with the aperture like this. Let's make this to around 300, and now if you see, the only text which is on in front is in focus, rest everything is blur. And here is a pro tip guys, you can add any image instead of this blue background. You simply just have to import your image and make it 3D, and you can add any text, and you can also make a slideshow like this. If you find this video useful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.